Everyone, welcome to our evening Sutra lecture. We'll begin with our Dharma request, so hope everyone can please place your palms together. We can invoke the presence of the three jewels. 欢迎大家，我们现在来请法，请三宝来加持，请合掌，然后我们可以一起来很诚心的请三宝来。
请大德桑听，为此法会集一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何疗伤脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto sucedoye alahadi samya sambuddhoje.
Namo sadanto sucedoye alahadi samya sambuddhoje.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, Dharma Master, and all good and wise friends in person, online, Amitabha. Welcome to tonight's Sutra lecture. We will be investigating Infinite Life Sutra and the kind of wonders and amazing things that we can find there. And they're truly amazing compared to what we have here in samsara. When it comes to food, when it comes to adornments, when it comes to music, especially when it comes to finding a real ground of well-being and happiness. It's called a land of utmost happiness or ultimate bliss, or you could say complete well-being. It's not called that for nothing. And also, it's a place where we go and we can actually be irreversible on this path to Buddhahood. There's very, very many important elements about Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, and we get to investigate it in depth tonight. So, welcome everyone. But before we start, we will recite Amitabha Buddha's name to invoke Amitabha's presence in our space, in our hearts, in the world that we live in. 好，我们今天晚上来研究《无量寿经》，学习阿弥陀佛的极乐世界的微妙的地方，是比我们娑婆世界的地方好太多了。花香庄严，跟那边没有痛苦，只有快乐。然后我们在那边修行，就直接就可以成佛了，不会退转。所以非常难得可以来一起研究《无量寿经》。好，我们先来念佛。南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿 阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛。
可以了，OK， 好。诸佛菩萨、仙公上人在座的法师，还有在座的佛友，还有线上的佛友，大家晚安。
So all Buddhas and Bodhisattva, Venerable Master, Dharma Master, and all good and wise friends here and online. Amitabha, good evening.
今天是7月21号，21号礼拜四，我们在伯克利这边，我们大家一起来研究《佛说无量寿经》。那今天的经文在108页的一开头到中间的地方。
So tonight is Thursday, July 21st. We're here at Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, investigating the Sutra of the Buddha's teachings on infinite life. We're on the top of page 108.
好，我们依照我们先读中文一遍，再来读英文一遍，我们大家一起读，来节省一点时间。好。
We'll first read the Chinese and then read the English. So we'll read together.
好，从上面一开始哦。佛与阿难，彼国菩萨成佛为神，以死之情，往诣十方无量世界，恭敬供养诸佛世尊，随心所念，花香伎乐，真盖传翻，无数无量供养之具，自然化身，应念即至，真妙殊透，非是所有，专以奉散诸佛菩萨，声闻大众，在虚空中化成花盖，光色晃耀，香气普熏，其花周圆400里者，如是转倍，乃复3000大千世界，随其前后，以次化末。好，我们到这里，然后英文。
Page 109, the top. Here.
Yeah.
The Buddha told Ananda, the Bodhisattvas in this land receive the awe-inspiring strength of the Buddha to travel to limitless worlds in the 10 directions in the span of a single meal. There, they respectfully make offerings to the Buddhas, world-honored ones. Offerings appear as they wish: flowers, incense, music, fine canopies and banners. These offerings are infinite and boundless, appearing spontaneously the moment they are conceived of. Precious, wondrous, and extraordinary, they cannot be found in the world. The Bodhisattvas then take these items and offer them to the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, voice hearers, and the Great Assembly. These offerings form into floral canopies in the sky, shining and dazzling, with an all-pervading fragrance. These canopies are 400 miles in circumference and then expand until they each cover a large billion-world system. These canopies then disappear in sequence, one after the other.
好，真的这个极乐世界呢，它也都在那里的菩萨们呢，他们都是乘这个阿弥陀佛的威神力量呢，在一段的时间呢，他去十方世界去供养诸佛，所以呢，这个都是，而且他们都是依照自己的信念，你要什么香花积业来，这些都马上可以来呈现。
So here these bodhisattvas in the Pure Land receive the strength of Amitabha Buddha and can go throughout the 10 directions as they wish in a very short time, in the span of one meal. And the offerings that they can make to all these Buddhas are very wonderful and are just whatever they think of, whatever they wish, they can offer it.
像这个基业啊，就是来唱诵啦、唱香赞啦，这些都可以。像阿弥陀赞啦，我们都是用唱的，这个都是用音乐来做供养，所以这个基业我们都有在做这些的事情。
So they make offerings of flowers, incense, praises, music. And these are all offerings that we also do here in the monastery.
还有呢，他讲这个真意啊，这个真啊，就是算布料啦，锦布啊，锦的东西呢，把它来披上去啊，这个都是披上去，增加这个庄严，这个都是叫做真意。
真意在哪里？
真意啊，
真盖。真盖。Okay, so 真意是衣服。
真啊，布料啦。
Yeah. So here these are fine canopies and banners. So they use fine canopies and banners to adorn the Pure Land.
还有床幡呢，床幡它这个床幡呢，这个就是像这个供佛的这个旗子啊，或者是下垂的这个旗子呢，或者是葬仪啊，它这个呢有特别意思，它这个呢这是表示胜利，而且能够降魔，这样子的一个象征，床幡。
So the last one is banners. So banners are offered to the Buddhas, and the banners, we don't have any banners, I think, right here. But we have small banners in our Rebirth and Long Life Hall.
Yeah.
But if you go to City of 10,000 Buddhas, you'll see that there's banners hanging from the ceiling that says Shakyamuni Buddha on them, or Sijamoni Fo.
Yeah.
And these banners have a meaning behind them. They represent kind of the victory of the Dharma and the subduing of demons.
Yeah.
They subdue demons. I guess if you imagine in battle, right? Oftentimes somebody carries the banner, and the banner is kind of the spirit of the army. You're going to battle and you have your banner. But the banner falls and everybody goes, oh, we lost. And they retreat. So the banners are kind of keeping the Dharma spirit alive.
Yeah, 所以呢，这些东西啦，像想法这些职业啦，或者是你生意啊，它都随你自己的信念呢，你马上想就马上到。所以呢，这个在我们它这个是极乐世界阿弥陀佛的功德所成的。那在我们这边呢，就没有那么能够有这样子的。他讲了，在这个世间上，我们这个世间呢，是我们没有办法办到的。
So these offerings appear as these bodhisattvas wish, and are infinite in number, and are far beyond anything that can be found in our world.
而且他还继续讲啊，他这些东西呢，他都从经典上呢，就是来转奉他去哪里去供养的那边的诸佛，他就转奉去那里，然后那里或者是那里去那个国度，他就向菩萨。声闻大众们呢，那些都可以看到，在虚空中来化现成为一个伞盖的。
So these bodhisattvas offer this to the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, voice hearers, and the Great Assembly. And these offerings form a kind of floral canopy in the sky.
Yeah. 而且呢，它这个非常的光明闪耀，非常的光耀。然后呢，还不止这样，还有香气呢。香气呢，它这个香气呢，普遍到所有的地方去。
So these offerings are shining and dazzling, and not only are they dazzling in appearance, but they also have a fragrance to them. So there's a kind of a wondrous perfume that pervades everywhere.
而且那里的这个花呢，它这个周围啊，它讲啊，经典上讲有400里的大，而且它会一直转变啊，它转到这个，因为它这个去供养的地方3000大千世界，它就一直扩散，一直扩散，然后一直到这个世界各地去。随着这个顺序去，然后顺序完以后呢，它自然又化掉了，就没有了。
So these canopies can cover 400 miles in circumference, and they can just keep expanding until they cover an entire large billion world system, because maybe they cover the whole universe. And then they disappear in sequence. It's kind of very orderly, and they disappear one after the other.
所以呢，像刚才我们讲的，这个都是阿弥陀佛的这个威神力量呢，来他给他们去菩萨们呢，去3000大千世界去供养，去供养呢，而且呢，就是时间非常短，在一个吃饭的时间就可以完成。
So we know that this all is because of Amitabha Buddha's spiritual powers, that he, you could say, supports, empowers these bodhisattvas to make offerings. These offerings that they make happen in a short duration, in just a span of one meal.
所以他这个在那里的修行菩萨们，那里的众生呢，最重要就是要来。能够到最后来成佛道，来成佛，这个是最重要的目的。那在这个杂比喻经里面呢，有一个事情，我们把它分享给大家， 因为这个对于我们的这个心信念很重要。我们的信念呢，我们是要成佛，我们不是要做其他的事情，或者是享乐啊，或者是去人天中的这个享乐，天上享乐，不是的。
So there in the Pure Land, living beings' main purpose is to become a Buddha. You can say their only purpose is to become a Buddha. Here's a story from the Agama Sutras where it emphasizes the importance of really having a resolve to wake up, to become a Buddha, and not have other kinds of resolves like seeking the pleasure or the happiness of the heavens and human realms. So we're not caught up in seeking pleasure.
所以呢，在这个《杂阿含经》里面呢，不是《杂阿含经》，《杂比喻经》里面，它这个第28篇他讲他有就是在天竺的地方，天竺就是印度啦，有一个那里住有10万的沙门10万个沙门，那5万个沙门呢，他已经得到阿罗汉。那这个得到阿罗汉，当然他就全部都非常清澈六通，都非常清楚六通，就是包括漏尽通啦，都有。那其他的5万人呢，他没有得到这个阿罗汉，他就其他什么得三道啦，或者根本就没有得到，都有。
So actually, this comes from a 比喻经比喻经。
杂比喻经。
So the miscellaneous analogy sutra, you could say, and it was talking about a time in India where a place there was 100,000 shramanas, you could say renunciants, and of those 100,000 renunciants, 50,000 of them were arhats who had realized the way. They had the 6 spiritual powers. They had no outflows. They had this deep, profound wisdom. The other 50,000 were diverse. Some had, you could say, the blessings to be reborn in the wholesome destinies. Others, perhaps not. It was a kind of a very wide range of other abilities, you could say, or realizations.
所以当时呢，这个在天竺这里呢，有一个长者，就是说，他算长老，然后又有钱，然后他来给供养。这个长者呢，他是要求人天中福乐自知他不是真的是要来求出世因来成佛的，他不是，他要在这个天上中作乐这一些的，他是来求这一些的。
So in the place there was an Indian elder, an elder is someone who has money, who has status, who has maybe older, and they wanted to make an offering to the Shramanas. But his offering came from the motivation to want to have the blessings of the humans and devas, the celestial realms. He wanted to, you could say, enjoy the bliss of the heavens, not to become a Buddha, not to transcend samsara.
所以呢，他就来到这个庙寺里面呢，来受供养，受施供养。来供养这些僧年这样子，所以他就开始来供养。那当时呢，有一个上座，他是得了6种神通的大阿罗汉，也在这里受供养。
So this elder came to the monastery to make an offering to the sangha, and there was a 上座就是最高的 the kind of the main monk who was actually a great arhat who had the 6 spiritual powers. 他就受供养，so he received the offering.
Yeah. 因为他也是大阿罗汉，所以呢，他这个人呢就已经是算很老了，极老，然后胡须也都白了，牙齿都掉落了，然后他的形体啊都是枯朽，就身体非常的就很老的这个形体出来。
So this elder was already very old. He had no teeth. You could say his hair was all white. He had his skin was all kind of wrinkled. And probably had not very good vision. Probably walked very slowly. So he was just very very old.
所以呢，他是在这个会上呢吃饭的是最上手，其实他也是10万人的最上手的人。
哎，你是说刚刚是也是这个出家人吗？还是在这个长老长者？刚刚这个没有牙齿、没有头发，这是长者还是那个上手？上手。哦 ，OK, sorry, got confused. So the 上手 the head monk was very old, no teeth, right, white hair, skin's all shriveled up, and so but he was the leader of these 100,000 monks.
所以呢，他在这个吃饭的做供养的地方呢，就等到这个长者呢，他都供养完了，长者供养这些僧人嘛，然后供养完了以后呢，然后呢，等到他这个因为供养吃饭完了以后，他会再拿一个水给大家洗手啊，这样子的。等这个洗手洗完了以后，然后就跟这个长者跟他讲话啦。
So they received the offerings. So this senior head monk waited until all the offerings were finished. After this elder who came made the offerings, and all the way to the point where he also offered water so that all the monks could wash their hands. Wait till all the kind of food offerings and meal was complete.
然后呢，他就跟这个师方啊。就跟这个长者讲啊，谭月，他讲谭月就是在家人啊，然后呢，你今天呢，你的师方啊，你会得到大的罪恶，就跟他讲说你这个供养你是得到大的罪。
So he then spoke to this elder, this head monk, and he told this elder, he said. Layman, you could say, or donor, you could say somebody, he's caught his attention. Layman, elder, today in your offering you made a great offense.
所以呢，当时这个供养的大会中呢，一些还没有得到的人呢，他们就认为说，这个上座已经老糊涂了，他讲这个话。
So some of the assembly, the shramanas there, who were not awakened, not arhats, they thought, oh gosh, our senior monk, the head monk, he's getting old, getting confused, saying things that make no sense.
所以讲狂言，那这个说他狂言，那上座就打。这个是事实的啦，不是狂言啊，他不是讲这个谎话的，没有啦。
So they said, "Oh, you're speaking crazy words, not speaking properly." And then the head monk said, "No, what I say is not crazy. It's actually true."
所以呢，众人又问呢，这个人呢，他来做供养。他是得到福的，怎么会得到这个罪呢？
So people asked him, "What? How could that be? This person made a great offering. He's supposed to receive blessings. Why would he receive, offense? Why would he receive, kind of a painful retribution?"
那这个上座跟他们讲啊， 你们啊，只有知其一啊，不知道这个还有另外事情，只知其一，不知其二。所以呢，这个因为呢，这个人啊，他供养呢，他是要受人天中乐的。
So he said to the people, it's because you only see the surface, you don't see deeper. You don't see the kind of deeper ramifications. And the reason of this is because this donor came and made his offering with the intention to have the blessings of humans and gods, to enjoy the blessings of humans and gods.
所以呢，他这个在这个供养受肉，他想说可以去受肉，所以呢，他生了大骄慢的心。
So he made this offering and thought to himself, wow, and now I can really enjoy my life in heaven. And he had this very arrogant thought, very arrogant kind of attitude.
Yeah,
I'm so great, I can be reborn in the heavens.
Yeah, 所以他自己讲呢，他不主去求解脱，他说他不必要去要求解脱，所以呢，而且呢，他观佛不奉经啊，他就是说他也不听佛在讲经，也不读沙门的这个沙门的这个讲的事情，他根本就没有虔诚的心。
So he was very arrogant, and he doesn't actually listen to the Buddha's teachings and doesn't really heed, pay attention to what the Shramanas share. And so he really does not have any sincerity. He doesn't make his offering with any sincerity.
他说啊，他讲啊，他这个这样子放逸自知呢，等到这个供食福，他讲他等到他吃这些福气吃完了以后呢，他就会堕到恶道去而且堕到恶道无量阿僧祇劫。
So he says after he makes this offering and receives the limited blessings from it, he'll fall into the 就是哪个地狱？
无量阿僧祇劫。
He'll fall into the hells for limitless kalpas, long time.
Yeah. 然后呢，这个罪受完了以后呢，才可以出来，这样子，他就是中了这个大的罪。
So only until he pays back the retribution from his offenses can he be reborn out of the lower destinies. This is why he receives a tremendous offense.
所以呢，他讲啊，这个经典讲啊，假如说呢，他那时候呢，他的这个心不是要得这个大福乐，他心呢来求圣道，求圣道就是得菩提道，这样子呢，这个福啊，就不会有这样子，因为他就不会有受这些大罪恶下地狱的这个报，他就得到这个算圣道，就得菩提道去成佛去了。所以这个是一个故事。
So because he didn't have a real sincere heart to make an offering, he and didn't really want to realize the way, but just seeking the pleasures of this world, his blessings will not last, and he will have to suffer from his offense.
好，在我们这个要得圣道呢，就是要来学圣道呢，这个算来守戒，来受五戒啦，断杀啦，断杀生呢，然后不去吃荤的肉类的这些事情呢，非常重要。在法纪经呢是第18，有一篇呢就是屠夫啊跟他儿子的这个命运的一个故事。
Okay, so maybe before I translate, I'll just reflect a little bit on the story that Jing Fo said. So in this section of the sutra, we're seeing the Bodhisattvas make offerings to the Buddhas of the 10 directions. And Jing Foshu made the point that this is something we often do at the monastery. Before each ceremony, we light incense. You can see behind us there's incense offered. You can see people offer flowers that are beautifully arranged. Today, some people came to the monastery and offered fruit. You can see the fruit's also beautifully arranged on the altar. And so this is a practice we do every day at the monastery. And you can see here in the Pure Land, this is also something that the Bodhisattvas do in a much vaster scale than we have here at the monastery. But today, Jing Foshu just explained that what's, you can say, very important as we make an offering, if we want to make this a spiritual practice, is the deeper intention behind why we are making the offering. And this is really key because it's invisible, sometimes we forget. Sometimes we don't pay attention. And what can creep in is attachment, is identity, is seeking. We make an offering seeking some kind of benefit. Maybe a good reputation. Other people see us make an offering, so we go, oh yeah, he's really a big donor, or he's a really good cultivator. Or we make an offering because we're embarrassed. Everyone else is making an offering, so we got to make an offering too. Or we make an offering because we want the blessings of the humans and gods, that Jing Foshu was just talking about. And so what that does is that the act of generosity doesn't go deep into our hearts. We don't offer something from the depth of our hearts without attachment, but it's conditioned giving rather than unconditioned giving. And so in this story, I think it's a really important point because it's something that is easy to slip into, especially for those who are in the monastery for a long time. Sometimes it can be like a competition to make the biggest offering or to look very sincere. And we can see that kind of thinking leads us to suffering. Jing Foshu just talked about falling into the hells. This mindset of arrogance, of being number one, trying to be important, leads to a actually hellish state, a kind of painful state. Right? You can watch arrogance work. Right? Even those who are doing good deeds but are very arrogant, somehow their worlds are actually very painful. People don't really want to be around them. People around them are all very fake. They're there around them maybe because they want something from them. They want their money. They want, this or that. But there's hard to have genuine friendship with someone who is very, very arrogant because you feel always that they're putting you down, kind of pushing you down and not relating to you as a real human being because they're so caught up in their own self-image. And so what's the antidote for this? I think that's really important because that's what the practice is about. It's not to say, oh, arrogance, therefore I'm hopeless. It's to recognize, yes, I have those thoughts of arrogance that lead to suffering. There is a way that I'm not arrogant. I can be not arrogant. And for this, I think it's to change the focus of our mind, which our focus oftentimes on the self being comfortable, the self having pleasure, the self being recognized. And to shift that attention to the whole field, to open our awareness, to see that we're just one part of a huge field of conditions. So for instance, this donor made an offering of food and maybe other things to the Sangha. But really, did he make that offering just by himself? Maybe he purchased the items, but did he make every single one? Well, other people were involved, right? And even the money that he made, did he make it just by himself, or did other people help him in the process of doing that? And so as we shift our awareness, not so much to ourselves, but seeing that we're part of a much bigger field, all of a sudden that self shrinks a little bit. It's no longer the center. It's a part of something greater. I may translate in Chinese. 所以我刚刚想讲一下这个净佛师讲的故事，我觉得非常重要。我们看到这边这些菩萨供养这个很多不同的佛，在十方佛，然后我们在道场里面也常常会供养花、供养香、供养有很多水果，今天有人来供养水果，非常庄严的来怎么说 arrange， 就是来安排这些水果。你要说安排水果嘛，你不会说安排水果，来做庄，
一样的，
把这个水果做很美妙、很庄严，就是很诚心的来做，对不对？所以这个修行、这个供养、这个法门是很重要的。你可以看到，我们的道场每天都做，在极乐世界也是做。那净佛就讲这个故事呢，我想是很重要，因为在做我们供养的时候，就是说真正要供养，重点是在我们的心，我们的心念是什么？有时候我们这个会怎么说忽略，因为我们没有看到，对，我们去供养个东西说我们要找一个东西供养是供养外表的东西，这个心念看不到，所以有时候会什么时候发生呢？在道场里面，就供养就变成一点点像一个求名求利，我是大施主啊，还是我这样供养会有很多福报啊，或者我供养是为了某某啊，或者我是很害羞啊，别人供养我就觉得我应该也有这个责任要供养啊，就变成很多杂的这个心念。但是在这个故事里，我觉得更危险的是什么？是这个骄傲心，就是我供养是不是诚心的供养，是一个骄傲心的供养。这个是非常危险的。刚净佛师就讲到说，我们这样子供养可能有一点点福报，但是最后是真的是下地狱的，就是这个地狱的环境。我想我们自己去看我们身边的人，或者我们看我们自己的经验，有些人非常有钱啊，非常有福报啊，但是他们如果有骄傲心，说真的，很多时候他们的生活是像地狱一样。为什么呢？很难有真正的朋友。很骄傲的时候，很多人不要接近，因为什么呢？因为觉得这个人不是个好朋友，常常会笑他们啊，或者欺负他们啊，或者给他们贬下去啊，按他们下去啊，压迫他们啊。因为那个很骄傲的人就觉得，我是最好的，所以他们没有真正跟一个人有这样子的一个诚信的关系，反而是他们爱上了自己的这个概念、想法、这个表现，所以没有真的去注意别人怎样，就是注意是什么？注意我自己我相，然后觉得别人就要尊重我这个我相，这个就很难，就很痛苦的一个生命，常常要保护自己，常常要跟别人吵架，跟欺负，这样子的生活是，虽然你可能有钱，甚至有地位，但是说真的是很孤独的，很痛苦的，所以我想我们学佛呢，不是说我们有骄傲心就说不好了，我就没希望了。佛法是像药一样，可以说我有这样子这个骄傲心，但我怎么对待呢？我怎么来把这个骄傲心不要这么强呢？我自己可以说，我就最观想这个，因为我可以说我自己这个很大的一个问题就是这个骄傲心。我想一个方面呢是做一些事情的时候看广一点，不要看到好像我自己在做这个事情。这个事情每一个事情我们做的是很多因缘成熟可以成立一件事情，所以像这个长者去供养僧团， 他这个供养呢，可能他花了钱来买这些东西，但每个供养都是他做的吗？我想不是啊，他自己可能去哪个地方买啊，或者他供养的时候，这些钱呢是他自己自己赚的吗？还是他靠别人一起来工作来赚的？对不对？或者他很多东西都是靠一个很多因缘成熟，就说我不是注意我自己，我是注意这个完全的这个环境，这个就是可以说把我的我相慢慢做少一点。可以说像一个例子呢 I give an example. Just for instance, we had the Suna Center, the Buddha Roof Farm Retreat up in Oregon. People know we had the reciting Guanyin Bodhisattva's name for a week, and Doug Powers, one of the senior teachers, helped lead it, giving talks in the evenings. And he joined the whole assembly, from morning to night, really vigorous. He likes to say he's 27, but he's actually I think 74, 76? How old are you, Jing Fosher? 76? 76, yeah, he's same age as Jing Fosher, I know, 76. 76, so, waking up early in the morning, bowing, reciting all day, not easy, right? And at the end, we expressed our gratitude for his presence and teachings and, care. And, Doug's nature is, I think in this regard, he's not doing it because he wants to be arrogant and special. His immediate response was, I'm just a freeloader. Everyone else is doing all the work. I just kind of show up and, get fed and get taken care of and say a few words, but a lot of the hard work is being carried by the whole group and carried by everyone showing up and doing our part. And that's what I see is, and it comes from his sincerity of his heart. He's not saying that in a kind of way to pretend that I'm not important. He actually really means that. He really appreciates everyone's presence. And so you feel, okay, I respect this teacher because he's not really stuck in his own identity, right? 所以就讲一个故事，比方说我们刚刚在那个佛根地有个法会，念观音菩萨的圣号。那个果雷居士，他是一个早期上人这个弟子，已经76岁了，就跟上人了。然后他在观音期就是带大家那个晚上会讲一点，他就讲无量寿经，跟这一样讲无量寿经，然后也会回答问题啊等等啊，然后全部都参加这个法会啊等等，很精进。他已经76岁，但是还是跟着大家修行。所以他离开的时候，我们大家都非常感恩，说你真的跟我们一起有这样子照顾啊、学习啊，我们非常感恩。然后我看他怎么回答呢？不是用一个很可以说骄傲的对啊，我是很重要的。他是非常谦虚，说这个我来这边就是可以说像一个 freeloader， 中文是什么 freeloader？ 你好像你没有做事情，靠别人来生存的 freeloader。中文不知道 I'm sure somebody online will probably know what a freeloader is. This is Western slang， 是美国人讲的话。就是说他没有做什么事情，他在这边就是靠别人的真正照顾，靠每个人的发心来一起把这个法会成熟成功。你看这样子讲，就是把我们这个眼光呢，不是看着他，是看着大家，我们大家把这件事情做成的。所以这个时候就是非常重要的一件方面的。So may I say one more thing, and then about this that I found very helpful, is also the attitude of service. So one is to expand our field of vision from just the self being at the center, but actually the second is to really value service, really value generosity intrinsically rather than for what it gives us. So for instance, in this story, this elder made this offering, but rather than really valuing this opportunity to make an offering to the Sangha, which is so precious, rather than cultivating this heart of generosity, he was focused on external reward, blessings. I'm going to be, in the heavens because I'm so great. I'm so generous, right? He was caught in the externals rather than the actual act of giving, act of service itself. So I think that's really important, to not see making offerings as something we do, and then when we get enlightened, we don't make offerings anymore. We're done. We're free. We can just meditate and be happy. No, actually, this offerings practice is infinite. It starts right now. It starts, it's now. It's in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. You could say, we make this offering all the time, and we're not looking for some end. The act itself is intrinsically valuable. And that way, we're not attached to some kind of reward. We're just taking joy in the act of giving. And little bit by little bit, if we're skillful, perhaps we can even not even see as an act of giving, but just being part of a greater flow of being, you could say, in the Dharma field. A wonderful thing to do. So these Bodhisattvas, for instance, are in the Pure Land, and they're making offerings. But my sense is that they're making offerings not with the sense that, I'm really important and I'm making offerings. They're just having fun. They're just enjoying this whole process of going to all the Buddhas and being of service, of showing their honor and respect. 作为第二个呢，我想
So we learn Chinese.
白痴 okay, it's a little bit strong. 白痴 is a little strong. That's 白痴 that's a little bit like insult if you call something 白痴。So in this 就是有点这个没有这么强的这个意思，但有一个说可以说白痴说。但是没有这么强的这个意思，因为白痴平常是骂人的，你说白痴。Although it's a close meaning though, 白痴 means you don't do anything and you get food to eat. 所以我刚刚讲这个骄傲心的第二个就是我们就是非常的重视供养，不是重视我们的所得到的东西，对不对？常常我们说菩萨是重视因，不是重视果。众生呢是注意果报，不注意因。所以我们就是说，我们这个供养就是重点，这个诚心的供养，不要担心拿到什么东西，这个也是非常重要的。所以如果我们有这个骄傲心，我们就把我们这个骄傲心就可以慢慢的 erase 没有擦掉，因为我们就知道，我这个供养是不是从我来的，我这个供养是一个常常做这件事情的，不是我要供养然后得到什么东西，我是供养，因为我是很高兴的供养，很诚心的供养。我想这个菩萨呢，他们供养不是觉得我供养是因为我很重要，我是一个大菩萨，我来供养，是因为我是很欢喜供养，可以给佛陀知道我非常尊重，这个尊重的心，这个布施的心。所以我想这个是一个很重要，我们这个修行供养的时候，一个是不要以为我们供养是我们自己在供养，是很多很多因缘供养。然后我们供养的时候不是要想我会得到什么东西，反而就是觉得非常快乐，我有这个可以说我有这个福报，我这个能力可以供养，我就是很快乐了。我们这样子的心呢，这样子久而久之，我们这个供养就可以变成更清净。I'll just make a point. It's actually very interesting. Is that in this particular sutra text, it says that these bodhisattvas make these offerings, but it points out that they're not making these offerings just on their own strength. They're making this offering from the strength of the Buddha. So, we often read that, right? They receive the awe-inspiring strength of the Buddha. But I think that's because they're acknowledging the field, this whole realm. How much of our lives that we don't really understand is actually happening because we're receiving the awe-inspiring strength of Amitabha Buddha? Probably quite a lot. We're just unaware. 所以在经典里面这边说，他们是成佛为力，对不对？成佛为神，为神。所以这个就是说，他们不是菩萨，觉得我自己有很大的本事，我自己在供养，反而他们是非常知道，这个是靠佛的慈悲，靠佛的加持，我有这个能力可以布施。我们多少我们的生命不是我们自己做的，反而是真的是佛的加倍，佛的帮助，可能我们看不到，但是如果我们真正是有这个能力可以看得清楚，我想会很多地方是佛的支持，让我们可以在我们生存下去。好，然后 ，Yeah。
The comment online that it's a different chur than Churpan.
Oh, it's a different chur.
Different chur.
Oh, okay.
Not the other one.
Okay, so it's a different 吃，白吃的吃。Free eating, yeah, 白吃 ，not eating, yeah, free eating. 白吃就是不吃啊。你吃东西的时候，你没有付钱，没有付钱。
没有付出什么，
白痴，对。
对啊，刚才你就讲
对，我说白痴，对。
Yeah.
Okay, 好。So let me translate. So the other story that Jing Fosher was about to start was that from Dhammapada number 18, and it's about holding the precepts and the importance of not killing, not eating meat, because it's a story about a butcher and a son.
这个也是在佛陀时代。那守卫城，这个守卫城就是一个佛陀住的那个城市嘛。然后呢，里面有住了一个屠夫啊，他在那里来屠杀这个牛啊、这些啊、鸡啊，这个很多年了。而且呢，他最喜欢每天呢能够吃牛肉。像牛肉咖喱饭啊这些的，他最喜欢吃。
So this story is from the Buddha's time. I think it's a Shravasti, and there was a butcher who would kill cows, ducks, chickens, many animals, and he did this for many years. And not just that, he really liked to eat beef with curry rice.
所以呢，有一天呢，他的这个因为他在算屠夫在卖肉嘛，然后就叫他的有一天有一个朋友就劝他的妻子呢，把这个肉都卖掉了，所以当天呢就没有这个牛肉啊来做家里饭。
So one day they were selling the meat, and a friend encouraged the wife to actually sell all the meat. So she did that, and so when later, when it came for their own meal, the butcher came back and there was no beef for the curry rice.
所以呢，他就非常生气呢，就跑到他自己的这个后院呢，后面有养牛在那里，他就割下来的这个一个公牛的这个舌头，来做这个烤了以后来做家里饭来吃。
So he got pretty angry. So he went to the backyard where there was a cow, and he just cut out a tongue from a bull, and then he cooked it and added it to the curry rice.
所以呢，他在烤了以后吃饭嘛，他吃饭他想咬一口这个牛的舌头，但是呢，他就咬断了自己的舌头。
So he cooked it, and then he was biting into the bull's tongue. But as he bit into the bull's tongue, he actually ended up biting his own tongue, kind of just completely biting off his own tongue.
Yeah. 所以呢，他这个情况呢，就跟那个公牛呢相同的 大量流血啦，从他的口中流出来，他非常的痛苦。
So he had his completely mouth was filled with blood, and it was very painful.
他最后呢，他就死掉了，因为他这个流血不止就死掉了。
And he died because the blood kept flowing and didn't stop.
他的妻子看到这样子的一个悲惨的这个情景呢，就非常的害怕。
So the wife saw this tragedy and was extremely scared.
然后呢，他就赶快劝他的儿子，你叫他说，你赶快离开这里家乡啊，离开这个守卫神啊，你到别的地方去，免得这个厄运啊，就是说不好的命运，遭到诅咒，所以会降到你的身上，因为他这个所以非常痛苦，这样子的一个发生的事情呢，会降到他的身上。
So she told her son who was there to immediately leave, because she did not want the bad fortune of the family to fall on him now that the father died in such unauspicious circumstances, that this kind of bad luck, you could say, would come for him.
所以呢，他的儿子呢，就到别的地方呢，那就到那个撒旦但沙斯楼的一个可能一个家庭啊，他的那个家庭去当金匠来做工作，就是这个工作就是打金子的这个工
是做金啊？
对，打金子的这个师傅啦。
So the son went to another place, and the place is called Dan Sa Shi Lo. Not sure where that is, but he became a goldsmith.
所以呢，他后来也表现得不错，他的这个老板呢，就把女儿嫁给他，然后就两个结婚，然后就生了几个孩子。
So he was not bad at the job and was quite successful, and so his boss ended up having his daughter marry marry the butcher's son, and so they married and had a number of children.
所以呢，等到这个孩子长大呢，他们又回来这个守卫城，就是来落叶归根啦，就是说回到故乡来守卫城。
So these children grew up, and then they went back to Shravasti because they wanted to go back to their ancestral home.
所以呢，这些小孩子呢，都是信奉佛教的，所以呢，他们就常常去佛陀那里听经啊，成为一个很虔诚的这个信徒。
So these children are also all Buddhist, and so they would go there and visit the Buddha and learn the Dharma. So they all became very sincere disciples.
所以呢，这些孩子呢，他就非常担心他的父亲啊，因为父亲呢，他只有养他们长大，没有做任何的善行啊，做好的事情。
So these children were worried about their father because the father, at this point was the goldsmith, had only raised them but hadn't really done much good.
所以呢，有一天他们就请这个小孩子呢，就请佛陀来，还有佛陀的比丘来家中里面来供养这些小孩子啊。
So one day these children requested the Buddha and the bhikshus to come and receive an offering.
所以呢，他们供养之后呢，这些小孩子就告诉佛陀啊，他说：“尊者就是释迦牟尼佛啊，我们的父亲的名义来供养佛陀跟比丘，请你来跟他说说法，使他了解佛法。”
So these children, after they made the offering, said to the Buddha, "World honored one, we made this offering on behalf of our father. We wish that you could share some Dharma with our father."
所以呢， 佛陀就向他的父亲来说法开示。他说啊，你啊现在已经渐渐老了，你的身体呢也就像枯萎的这个叶子啊，就是叶子里面都最后会枯掉了。现在呢，你必须来做未来的生命要做准备了。
So the Buddha told him, "You are now old. Your body is like a wilted leaf. You need to prepare for what will happen in your next life, to prepare for your transition."
所以呢，他就说你要奉献啊，来修行的生活方式呢，做一个有智慧的人啊，他这样子跟他讲。
Told him, "You need to make offerings and be a good cultivator, so that you can be a person of wisdom."
这个他的父亲呢，就真的当时他就察觉到，哦，真的时间很那么快，生命是无常的，生命也是就很快的就要过去，所以他就听了这样子的佛陀，他正念就现前，他的最后呢，他就这个老人家呢，就证到了出国。
So the father listened to the Buddha's words and really had a reflection. Wow, time goes so fast. Everything is impermanent. I've gotten old over these years so quickly. And so he had a kind of, you could say, proper mindfulness, or he became aware of that situation. And he had actually a profound insight that he became a Shotapanna, a first stage arhat.
好，我们再分享一个这个杂比喻经里面呢第7篇，它这个有关于这个我们的文殊师利菩萨，他还没有修成菩萨，他当凡人就是一般的在家人的时候的情况，我想这个对大家修行非常重要。
So this next one comes from another sutta, the Miscellaneous Analogy Sutra, and it's about Manjushri Bodhisattva. When he was still an ordinary person, now he left home to cultivate the way and was very vigorous in his Dhutanga practices, ascetic practices.
他说呢，他这个当时呢他在当凡人的时候，就是跟我们一样啊，就是还没有得到的意义的时候，他那时候有一个菩萨呢，叫做喜根的菩萨去讲法，讲什么？讲摩诃言，摩诃言的这个经典。
摩诃言是大乘经典啦，对不对？So this is a time when Manjushri Bodhisattva was still an ordinary person, and in that time there was a Bodhisattva. There was a Bodhisattva whose name was Shigen, which means happy faculties, and then this Bodhisattva was teaching the Mahayana Sutras.
这个摩诃言的意思呢，就是说这个后面讲了，他讲呢，就是实相法。实相法呢，就是说，你讲任何实相啊，就是无相嘛，就是实相就是无相。然后你一些淫乱啦、愤怒啦、愚痴啦，这个跟道都是相同的，没有什么不同。然后这个道也是涅槃。这个道啊，你修这个道都会得到涅槃的，所以呢，当时这个文殊师利菩萨呢，他就不信，因为他在修苦恨嘛，所以他不相信，他就离开了。
So So the context here, Manjushri Bodhisattva is cultivating these ascetic practices very vigorously, right? All these 12 ascetic practices, and this Bodhisattva is teaching the Mahayana Sutras, the Mahayana Dharma, and he was teaching about true mark teachings, or you could say the kind of ultimate mark, ultimate characteristic, ultimate appearance of the teachings. And we often say true mark is no mark. You go, huh? What does that mean? I think sometimes it might be easier to understand to say free of marks, free of appearances, free of characteristics. That when something is true in the ultimate sense, it has no actual places you can attach to kind of identify. So for instance, we just talked about giving a moment ago. True giving has no marks because the giving doesn't even have a sense of somebody's giving or someone's a gift or somebody receiving it. It's just this kind of effortless flow, and it just happens, right? So that's no mark. That's actually what's going on when you really look at the Dharma deeply. And he was saying that anger, what 那个愤怒，这怎么？
这个他们这个
说
知道
the ignorance, desire, and anger, those are not different from the path, not different from the way. And the way is just nirvana. There's no difference. And so Manjushri Bodhisattva at that time, because he was cultivating these ascetic practices, didn't believe what this Bodhisattva was saying, right? You can think of it this way: he's working really hard, and somebody tells him that actually, the true way doesn't have any mark of working hard. And he's like, "What? I don't believe that." And so he goes off.
所以呢，然后呢，他后来这个喜根的弟子呢，他们又在说这个恶入不净法，就是说，你有什么坏的这个不净的这个法呢？然后这个喜根的弟子呢，他们都说所有的法都说无所有法是真的，就是说没有什么法是真的真法。
So later,
诸法都是皆空了。
So the disciples of this Bodhisattva, happy faculties, were teaching that all dharmas are, you could say, not real. All of them are empty.
所以呢，诸法皆空呢，就没有什么有净啊，是纯净的或者不纯净的，根本不就没有，因为所有的法都是空法。
So because of that, everything is empty. Then there is no purity and there is no non-purity.
那这个时候呢，这个行12头陀恨的这个文殊师利菩萨呢，他也就默然没有对，但是呢，就是说他没有跟他不怎么样子对他有什么好的，但是呢，他里面的心里面呢，就非常的憎恨了，就成了一个恨结。
So this bhikshu who was cultivating the ascetic practices, which is Manjushri Bodhisattva in a former life, he heard this saying that there's no purity and there's no non-purity. And he didn't say anything, but in his heart he was really angry. So he had this kind of place of a knot of anger formed in his chest.
Yeah. 所以呢，当时的这个喜根弟子，就是那个喜根呢菩萨，他的弟子呢，他总共说了70个句来赞叹这个实相法。
So this disciple of the Bodhisattva, happy faculties, said in all 70 verses in praise of this genuine mark, this true mark.
所以
Dharma.
Yeah. 那当时这个头陀恨比丘呢，这就是文殊师利菩萨了。他每一听到一句呢，他总共70句嘛，就嗔恨一句就结在心里面。他最后呢70句，他讲了70句，就憎恨70个结在心里面。
for each verse that this ascetic bhikshu heard, he formed one knot of resentment and hatred. So he heard 70 verses, so he has 70 knots of hatred in his heart.
所以呢，等到这个说完这个时候呢，就都比丘他的站的地方呢就裂开了，所以呢，他这个泥啊，就被陷入在泥那里去，那这个陀罗比丘就陷到这个算无间地狱了，泥地狱去了，然后过了无量劫呢，然后再出来。
So this ascetic bhikshu had this resentment in his heart, and and he had these 70 kind of knots. And actually, when he was there, the earth kind of cracked open, and he fell directly down into the hells, into the relentless hells. And he was there for many, many eons to receiving retribution.
所以呢，后来他出来以后啊，就是从这个泥地狱里面出来以后，他知道哦，不信这个妙法，这个罪是非常重的。
So after he finally got out of the hells, he realized, wow, not believing this wonderful Dharma has tremendously bad consequences, big offense.
所以呢，后来这个比丘呢，就是文殊师利菩萨比丘呢，他就专门来专精学问他好好的修行，他最后就得了这个大智慧解空第一。
So then this bhikshu was really diligent in his study of the Dharma and kind of the deeper understanding. And that's why he became foremost in great wisdom. Manjushri became foremost in great wisdom. He understood emptiness very deeply. Number one.
Yeah. 所以呢，这个比喻经啥比喻经呢？他这个佛说般若呢，不信来毁谤呢，这个是非常有损，就是说你会损耗你的这个自己的，受损害是自己的，所以因为他这个整个故事呢，就是说他后来他了解这个后悔了，他了解，后来就得到这个大的利益。
So the Buddha taught how that if you don't believe in prajna teachings and you slander it, there is tremendously bad, you could say, retribution. So in this story, we get to see Manjushri Bodhisattva, who first did not accept, in fact, got angry and resentful about the deeper teachings on emptiness, but later repented and transformed himself, and then became foremost in wisdom. That's an interesting story about how you can, sometimes pain is the best motivator. So you go from, having ignorance and rejecting the true Dharma, you could say, but after realizing that once we reject it, the consequences of doing so, that could actually be a motivation to learn the true Dharma as deeply as possible, as in the case of Manjushri Bodhisattva. It's very interesting. 所以说这个故事蛮有意思的，是说我们可以说不信真理呢，很多痛苦，但是从这个痛苦中学习，我们会有很大的这个动力去改进，对不对？很多时候是我们痛苦的结果过后，我们开始真正去修行。我们做太多愚痴的事情，我说我太愚痴了，我要修行。那时候我们真正可以去改进。So oftentimes it takes suffering to help us start really cultivating. And so here, I guess the case for Manjushri Bodhisattva, he he suffered in the hells, actually, interesting enough, that motivate him to become well learned and profound in his understanding of emptiness.
好，我们在下面再讲一个故事，这个故事也很好。我们这个也是在《杂比喻经》里面第4篇里面，他说呢，以前有一个小孩子，他喜欢做种种基业，刚才我们讲了基业就是唱歌啦、来赞叹啦这些的，做基业，然后呢。他是这个小孩子呢，他是跟一个一家长者，这个长者很有钱，然后他是跟他看牛，来这个小孩子来给长者看牛过日子这样子。
So this is another story that comes from the Miscellaneous Analogy Sutta. So there was number 4. The story is number 4 in that sutta. So there's a kid who really enjoyed music, and he worked for a family with a lot of money. There was an elder who was very wealthy, and he worked as a cowherd. So he spent his time watching the cows.
所以呢，这个长者呢，对他也不是很照顾他，所以呢，他就跟他，因为他听他一天到晚在唱歌呢，他就跟他讲说，你能不能做基业，就是说你唱歌这一些呢，昼夜不停的话，你这样子来一直做的话呢。你满了1岁，我就把这个牛就给你了。就是满1年的时候，我这个牛干脆就给你了，不要了。
So this elder, you could say, wasn't really that caring towards this boy. And so one day he actually came to this boy and said, I hear you singing all the time. Let me give you a challenge. Can you sing all the time, nonstop, day and night, for 1 year? If you can do that, then I will give you this cow.
所以呢，他就跟他的这个主人说，当然啦，我可以啦，我们这样子。然后他又跟主人讲，你会不会听啊？你会不会来实现？把牛给我。他这个长者说，当然我也会啊。
So this boy said, oh yeah, no problem. I can sing all the time, day and night for a year. But I'm asking you, really, would you give me this cow? Will you really be true to your word and your promise and give me this cow? So this elder said, yeah, I'll give you the cow.
所以呢，他这个小孩子呢，他就非常欢喜，然后一心来做业。就一心在那里唱歌，他连续呢3天3夜都没有休息。
So this child was so happy, so he just focused completely on singing all the time, and so for 3 days he sang without any rest.
所以呢，他这个长者呢，听了3天3夜，他真的挺烦了，心里很烦，他就命令这个其他的人呢，把牛全给他。
So this elder heard this boy singing for 3 days and was just so annoyed. Finally told his people, say, give the boy the cow, give the boy the cow.
所以呢，这个故事是到这里，但是呢，这个比喻呢，这个我们行道来做福是不会说要做多久多远的，不去我们行道没有这样子的去精算，所以呢，你非常认真做的时候呢，它就到来了，它就给这个自然就来了，不要 不必要经过多少劫这样子。
So this is where the story ends, but it's an analogy saying that when we cultivate, we do not want to worry about how long it will take for us to get results or how short it takes. We just need to focus wholeheartedly on what we're doing, and the Tao naturally arrives on its own. We don't have to wait an eon for its results.
Yeah, 所以呢，这个是很好的一个故事。我们呢，每天都来念佛，中午来念佛，我们就不要 give up。我想我们自然到时候就会有成果的。
So this is a very good story. So like for instance, we recite the Buddha's name. We do not want to give up our recitation every afternoon. We keep reciting, and then we will have a result.
好，下面的时间我们来讲一下这个我们八音之土啊，这个土是训，这个训啊，这个八音啊，这个八音。
你要 save for next time 啊，因为时间没有这么多，已经8点9点多了。你下次你可以来。
下一次啊，要下一次。那我们
Next episode of our Sutra lecture, you will be able to learn about this very ancient instrument. You go, what is this? What is this? It's actually an instrument that you can play.
这个我也不知道，这个我们 BBM 什么时候有这个我不知道。不过有很多人呢，他看到这个都很惊奇，这个是什么？这个是究竟是什么？我当时也不知道。现在我们在讲这个八音才知道，哦，这个是八音里面的一个训啊，这个一个音乐。像明天下一次我们来讲。
So this is a string. So it's a musical instrument from ancient times. So next time we will talk about it. Okay. So that concludes our Sutra lecture for tonight. Happy that you could join us, that we can learn about how do we make offerings and how we can recite all the time. And I think Amitabha Buddha is not quite like the elder. Amitabha Buddha is not going to, oh my goodness, stop reciting, I'll get you, just go to the Pure Land, you know. I think he probably takes great joy in people reciting and just wants us to recite so he can give us support to find a place of real happiness. So, yeah. Okay, what's the question? We'll see if we have time.
It sounds like since he cut off the tongue of the animal, the father had no consequence. On the contrary, it was a blessing by becoming an arhat. Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, I think you maybe misunderstand. So the question was, when the father cut off the tongue of the cow, there was no consequence and he became an arhat. No, the father who cut off the tongue of the tongue of the cow, he actually bit through his own tongue, which is interesting karmically, right? He cut the tongue off the cow, so his own tongue got cut out, and then it bled and he actually died. And his mother, trying to protect the son from the unfortunate circumstances of the father, sent the kid away. And later, fortunately, that son had children who brought him into the Dharma. And from there, that son actually learned the Dharma and had an awakening. So, the story had a couple moving pieces. The father who was the butcher who killed or cut the tongue of the cow had actually a very bad retribution. Okay, let's dedicate merit. 我们来回向功德。
那没有事啊，
可以了。
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 OK。
好。May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, so that concludes our evening sutra lecture. Hope you can join us for next week.
Yeah.
Amitabha.
Noon, 12.
Tomorrow noon? No, 12:30 we have Reverend Sher's lecture.
Or 12:30?
12:30. Friday, 12:30, Reverend Sher will be lecturing.
Tomorrow is Friday, yeah, okay.
But
Friday, no Amitabha.
But Saturday,
Saturday.
we recite Amitabha twice. To 12:30 to 1
Yeah.
and 2 to 3:30.
Yeah, we have Amitabha regular Huawei.
Yeah, Saturday.
Okay, Saturday.
Okay.
Okay.
Amitabha.
Amitabha.
Good night.
Yeah.